Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to be doing a special selection today, which is where one of you tell me exactly what I need to check out. If you'd like to submit your own special selection, you can find the link in the description. Today's comes at us from Paul. It says, "Hey Bryan, this is The Vapours by Meredith. Hope you enjoy." That's what we're going to check out today. I've never heard of Meredith. I don't know if that is a person or the name of a band. Let's dive in though. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, so very disorienting. We started off with the pickup. And then that organ swell is not, it's emphasizing something, it's not the downbeat. It changes often. A lot of really cool textures in here though. Ooh, what? Alright, so we're alternating 8 and 7 beat phrases. So if you're counting, it's 3 bars of 4 and a bar of 3. Yeah. It's weird too, there's this mix between like acoustic timbres and techno timbres. What is going on here? See, here we go. Very violin, right? Very acoustic. Yeah. Love how old ideas linger on past their moment into the new ideas. The 1516? No, not 1516. You're like 1316. This is weird. It's really devolving into a lot of chaotic elements as well. Yeah, and see that final crash hit, not crash hit, cymbal hit was 100% real. Well, okay, I take that back. The technology exists to have emulated that digitally, but the amount of work that at least I perceive it would have taken to do so is just it's way more work to put that together than to actually purchase a cymbal and hit it. So it makes me think that a lot of the drumming is actually acoustic, which I mean it just creates this strange timbre clash for me. There's when it comes to electronic music, it has a different texture to it. A lot of like synthesizer sounds have a different texture to it than acoustic instruments. And to hear them together merge, it's not even just like we have acoustic instruments and synthesizer tones together. Playing together, it's like these timbres are a conglomeration of acoustic and synthesizer sounds. It's like they're acoustic instruments that are being digitally modified to create these weird sounds. And there's so many sections throughout here where I'm not sure which one is dominant. It kind of flips back and forth where sometimes the timbre will lean more towards acoustic and sometimes it will lean more towards electronic. And it's man, it's disorienting, and I think that ties into the intro as well. The song starts out extremely rhythmically interesting. There's a lot of rhythmic complexity in the way that the two main lead items are bouncing off of each other. I don't even know what instruments they were. And then of course that vroom, that very fuzzy lower end sound kind of comes in, and it's always on a different beat, but never on the downbeat like the other two ideas, like their passages are emphasizing, and it creates a lot of rhythmic uh, rhythmic complexity in that opening section. And I have to go back and listen if we were even in 4/4 at the time. I think about a minute later, I had mentioned that we were in alternating 8 and 7. You can count it as 3 sets of 4 and then 1 set of 3. So that fourth bar is always going to feel a bit short. It feels like we're lurching into the repetition rather than it being on time. And there's a possibility that that was present in the intro as well, which only leads or lends itself more to this this disorienting concept of it. Not only do we have the rhythmic intricacies, but the meter itself is unstable as well. It changes, and it makes me wonder how much, especially once we start looking into that penultimate section there, that I think was in like 1316. I don't know. It was when I was counting, I wasn't quite getting to the end of four in the second bar. So it was definitely a bar of 4/4, and then a bar of something just shy of 4/4. I wasn't getting to the end of four, which would be 1416. We were coming off right before that. 1316, I think, was one of the last ones I said, and now I'm kind of confident in that. Either 1216, no, 1216 would have been too early because that would have been on four. Yeah, I think it's a bar of 4/4 and then a bar of 1316. And yeah, just bonkers time signatures. And it makes me wonder how many of the other situations in the track where I felt that it was a bit disorienting rhythmically. It wasn't possibly just the rhythm, but also meter. If they don't shy away from changing the last bar's meter in a 4-bar phrase, how far would they push that? Would they do an 8-bar phrase where the eighth bar is changed, so you have this extended time of normalcy of this 7-bar phrase of 4/4, and then cut it off in that eighth bar, and have a lurching moment there? Because the longer that you make your phrases the normal aspect of it, the more easier it is to catch someone off guard, because the more difficult it is to see the pattern. When you have short patterns like alternating 4/4 and 1316, you can feel the 4/4, then you can feel that it's not 4/4, and you get this back and forth. When we shifted to the 4-bar phrase, 3 bars of 4 and a bar of 3, it took me longer to see that because I'm like, 4/4, okay, we're in 4. And then so I start listening to other things, and then I'm like, wait a second, we had a lurching moment here. And I listen back and I'm like, wait, we're in 4. What do you mean there's a lurching moment? Maybe it's something in the instruments. So the longer you do this, the more irregular that the irregular meter comes in, the harder it is to spot it. It's kind of like Where's Waldo? Weird tangent here, but if there's 2 people on the page, finding Waldo's pretty easy. If there's more than 2 people, it gets progressively more difficult. So the less often that the irregular time signature pops up, the harder it is to spot, because the feeling that it creates can actually be found in the rhythm as well as the meter. So yeah, like I said, it makes me wonder what other parts of the song have odd meter that maybe I just didn't catch because I was looking for the unsettling aspect elsewhere. So yeah, meter's a thing that I'm walking away from this one intrigued by. But the other thing, and timbre. I already went over timbre. I also want to talk about melodic structure, because I don't know that the melody here is. I don't know if it's the highlight, the intentional highlight of their music. And I say that because every part of this song is extremely rhythmic. It reminds me of music that a percussion player would create. And we've talked about this before when we looked at, man, I can't believe I always forget his name, the drummer for the Police. He went off and did some solo stuff. He wrote the soundtrack for Spyro the Dragon, which we checked out. Copeland, something Copeland. And then we also looked at some of his solo works. And you can see how much the rhythmic aspect dominates the melodic playing, the lead elements. They're still very rhythmically complex. And that's what's happening here, is a lot of these melody lines aren't too concerned with melodic phrasing or harmonies. They're more interested in how these melodies play off of each other and the drums rhythmically, or not necessarily the drums, any other rhythmic component of the track, or maybe how they play off of the meter. Um, there's a lot of attention to detail of how the rhythms of everything work, not so much detail in how the melodies work. However, the end result still has some really moving melodic passages. There's also some very beautiful harmony work. There were some chords in the opening minute that I absolutely loved that either I missed or didn't come back throughout the rest of the track. But uh, yeah, there's a strong emphasis on rhythm here, and it's hypnotic. I don't know if anybody else fell into that. This is a song that, as often as I tried to stare directly into specific instruments, my brain was always drifting back into just being with the song, almost in a like a psychedelic or post rock or droning. I think not necessarily post rock, but like a psychedelic kind of droning, meditative state is what the song continued to try to force me into, and I had to actively engage myself with the song. And I think a lot of that is just the rhythmic whirlwind mixed with the repetition of what's going on in a lot of these sections. But for whatever reason, it worked for me, put me into that meditative state. I've talked about before that I usually have to force myself, especially in this situation, thinking critically, having the camera and the lights in front of me, and being in this environment. I have to really force myself sometimes to just be with the music. And it's why I usually have more of a negative first reaction to droning music because there's less for me to latch on to critically. They're designed to sort of just allow them to wrap around you and for you to be in that moment. It's something I have an easier time with when I listen to music casually, but right here, this song was continuously trying to put me in that state, and it was kind of a weird feeling. I enjoyed it. I did. But usually the opposite effect is what's happening when I'm doing these videos. And that has me intrigued as well. I think that's going to be my big takeaway here is that I don't quite understand what's going on with this song, and it makes me want to dig into it more. The timbre makes no sense to me. Like I said, it's like walking between worlds of electronic and acoustic. The rhythmic elements are constantly all over the place and extremely playful and not afraid to tackle strange meter. Um, and now it's very trance-like for me in a setting where I have a difficult time getting into that meditative state. So yeah, very weird. Um, Going back to melody though, it's it, I don't know if I conveyed this enough, so I want to go back into this. Rhythm is extremely important to the melodic lines, but again, I don't want to take away some of the melodic element to this song. There are some really cool moving lines throughout, usually in the right panned synthy kind of metallic sounds, almost like it's almost like a glockenspiel or some other metal bell style of instrument was put through digital effects that kind of softened up the tinginess, especially if we're using like plastic mallets versus yarn or even rubber mallets. I mean, just shaving off that sharpness of the tone. That's kind of the sound I was getting on the right side. And this instrument over here on the right side was given a lot of moving lines. Sometimes eighth notes, sometimes 16th notes, sometimes constant runs. And there were some really beautiful movements that they were creating. But I think what's most important, or yeah, most important is not that they act in isolation, but that they usually run with the atmospheric stuff that's going on around it and creating these beautiful soundscapes. And that's what this song is. It is a series of soundscapes created with impossible instruments with a focus on rhythmic complexity. And even saying that, like, I have a grasp on what is happening here, but I still have no idea, I suppose, how it's happening. And it makes me want to dive into the song over and over again to unlock this mystery. It's a puzzle box I don't quite get. I see how all of the mechanisms work, how it rotates or how buttons, can be pushed in or whatever, but I do not see the solution in front of me. I can tinker with it, I can look at it, but it ultimately escapes me, and I'm fascinated by that. Um, yeah, just so many cool things going on, and I just, it feels like it goes right over my head. I think the last thing I want to touch on is uh, genre. I think is too wide of a net for this topic, but maybe concept, sound. The song moves through several ideas. It's 6 minutes long. I wasn't counting the number of concepts we went through, but it felt fairly rapid. So I'd say probably somewhere between 6 and 10 ideas, and they were all over the place. We had like dancey techno stuff. We had beautiful, moving, classical oriented kind of ideas with a rhythmic uh, primary attention. We had what was that? That rising rising tone, almost wall of sound element closer to the end. And the song just kind of goes all over the place and kind of lacks a cohesive identity musically. And I've said that about bands or songs, sorry, not bands, songs in the past, where I can see all these individual ideas, but I don't see the thread that connects them, and it feels like a series of disconnected, interesting ideas. But here, normally, I would make that comment. There's a bunch of ideas here. I like them individually. I don't see the story that they tell when tied together. But on an interesting twist, the timbres themselves are the unifying thread, at least the way that I see it. There are not a lot of connecting tissue between the ideas musically, but the instruments themselves, the sounds that they're creating, the rhythmic choices. Actually, the rhythmic the rhythmic element, the rhythms themselves might be a bit more connective. Might be that piece in the music that connects it all. But the instruments themselves, they're unique. And maybe it's because I've never heard anything like this that it sounds a bit more connective due to the timbres. Maybe if I do a deep dive into Anna Meredith's work and I hear more stuff like this, I may end up not really viewing that as a connective piece anymore because it's more of the Anna Meredith sound rather than the Vapours sound. But right now, I have nothing else to really connect this to sonically, that it comes together as a whole because I have nothing to judge this based on. And I think that's another interesting too is that I've made comments, a lot of comments in the past. That's kind of my job here. I listen to music, I make comments about it. But at the end of the day, they're still just my opinions and thoughts based on my biases and experiences. And even something like this song lacks connective tissue or this song is extremely cohesive from start to finish is based upon ideas that I have accrued based on my other experiences with other music. So yeah, I never really thought about it that way. To me, if something seems connective, if something seems cohesive, then it is. But what if that is based on external ideas? Like this is based on the fact that I've never heard any sounds like this before. But if I hear this band, the rest of this album and another band that sounds like this, eventually I'm going to disconnect this sound from this song, and the song, the music itself, what would be written on paper or possibly what's done in the production would have to stand on its own. And then would I view it as an incoherent mess? After that, would I view it as a series of interesting but unconnected ideas? Maybe. Opinions change over time. We had a whole week about that in November, I think, where I looked at stuff that I was a little harsh on previously, and a couple of the things I actually had a huge 180 on. But yeah, I'm very taken aback here. I feel like this is going to be a little lighter, definitely a surface read, a bit shorter of an analysis, but I really don't know what I heard. There's definitely a lot of surface stuff, which, like I said, I just talked about, but I don't have a deeper understanding of this track. It is a series of interesting rhythmic ideas pulled together with sounds I've never heard before and packaged together with some interesting metric choices. And I am quite intrigued. I don't remember who did this now? Paul. Yes, Paul, thank you for this. I've never heard of Anna Meredith before. I do have questions. Obviously, one is instrumentation. How much of this is acoustic? How much of this is digital? Um, and second, does Anna Meredith always do instrumentals like this? And is it a person? Is it a group? See, that's the other thing. Is Anna Meredith one person? Is this a stage name for a techno artist? And all of this is done in a computer. None of this is acoustic. Is this a group? Is this one person who wrote the music and then brought some musicians together to record it? Would open up the ability for more acoustic instrumentation and performance. So many questions about this. So, Paul, if you have any answers, as well as anybody else who knows anything about this, let me know. I need some education on this group for sure. Those are my thoughts though. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this one. If you're going to be digging into this anymore, if you agreed with me or disagreed, let me know what's going on. When you're done commenting, you can head up to the description box, look for the Linktree link. Take you to this guy right here. It's got links for Discord, it's got links for Patreon, merch, Twitter, email, all sorts of stuff. Go ahead in there, check it out, see what's in there. If anything interests you, go ahead and click on those above the description box if you could. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll be looking at the final Wall of Sound track for the week, as well as a creator's request, which is where a band gets in contact with me and says, hey, would you mind looking at our music? And I say, no, I don't mind. Let me know what you want me to listen to. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.